In this video, I'm going to be talking about why the Sony Burano probably wasn't made for me. Here's the story. So last year I had the opportunity to go to a Sony Burano event held here in Melbourne, Australia, and I got to get my hands on the camera itself. And at the time, the camera had just been announced and it was all new and shiny and really interesting because it was the first camera, and as of recording, currently the only camera to my knowledge to be able to have internal NDs and in-body image stabilization. And the camera has now been released for a few months now, and when I look at the price tag, I immediately think this camera isn't for me. And it's not because it's not a great camera, I'm sure it is, but it's just priced at a point that just really doesn't make sense for a video producer like myself. I currently shoot with the Sony FX6 as my A camera, and for my gimbal camera, I use the Sony a7S III. And my B camera is the Sony a7R5, and that's really handy to get photos and also B-roll of whatever projects that I'm filming. So when I think about it, right now I am in a very good sweet spot in terms of what gear I have for my video projects. But when the price tag is 44,000 Australian dollars, I do have to consider, is this worth the investment? And for me personally, it's not. I'm sure for people that really need that 8.6K sensor and the internal RAW recording, it would be a great camera, and if they're getting paid to do projects that require those specs, then great. But for me personally, I think I'll need to pass on the Burano and just stick with the camera equipment I have right now, until they announce either the next FX9 or the next FX6, but that goes without saying. Even though I own a Sony FX6, I would still be interested to see what a Sony FX9 Mark II would be, depending on what the specs are and what the price point is. That could be a camera that does make sense for my video needs. So I don't have any plans as of right now to replace my FX6 or other Sony cameras that I use for my professional video shoots. However, I am looking at purchasing a camera for my YouTube studio right here. Right now I'm using the Sony a7S III, but I use that camera on my video shoots for clients, and I don't like the idea of always having to take the a7S III off the gimbal and then set it up in the studio here and all that kind of stuff. Settings get changed, batteries don't get charged, things can go wrong, and I can't afford turning up to set and having things just not set up the way they need to be. It's great to just have a camera that lives on my gimbal, and then I don't have to worry about the settings changing or lenses changing or anything like that. It just gives me peace of mind. So I am looking for a camera that just lives in here so I can make YouTube content. And right now there are two cameras that I'm looking at. One is a Sony camera, which is the a7C II, and the other is the Panasonic Lumix S5 IIX. So right now I'm kind of on the fence between both of them. I'm not sure which way I'm going to go. There are a few different paths I could take for purchasing a camera here for my YouTube studio. So I think in my next video, I'm going to talk a little bit more about that. Thanks for watching. And for the regulars of this channel, you know what time it is. It's time to look at my YouTube studio setup, and I've got the Shure SM7B, same microphone, going into the cloud lifter down here, and then going into my Sound Devices Mix Pre 3, which is then going into my, as mentioned in the video, a7S III. And the audio that you heard in this video from my talking head part was all straight from the Sony camera. It's not the file from the Mix Pre 3. And really the only change for my setup this time from my previous video is this time I've got an old iPad Pro as my monitor, and I'm using the Monitor Plus app, which is going wirelessly from the a7S III to the iPad. The light is the Amaran 60X at 100% intensity, and we've got the X-Lite Softbox 105cm shallow version. All of this is plugged into a power strip that goes directly into the wall.